Well, the global economic slowdown has forced companies to interrogate their resources and make sure they have the right people selling their brands. Joining us now on the desk, we've got Jessica Hubbard, journalist at FinWeek, Jacques de Villiers from the Business Generator, and Harry Welby-Cooke, co-owner of Action Coach, and of course, Mark Ashton. So Mark, this is a topic that's close to your heart at this point in time.
Yeah, well look, I think it's one of the very interesting things that we look at the moment is how do you sell more? It sounds like a very simple concept, but looking at what's happening in the global economy, businesses are being cut to the bone. They are running as lean as they possibly can, but at the end of the day, you've got to have the decent sales staff out there that are actually driving sales throughout your business. And I think media is seeing it across the board. Financial services have maybe been sheltered in some cases, but you know, at the end of the day, you're looking for what is going to bring in the money. How do you build a team that kind of manages you through this recession? And I think that there's some very interesting dynamics. How do you remunerate them? How do you find those people? How do you take the team that has kind of been protected through a good time and cut them down to identify who the superstars are?
Because Harry, I'm sure it's easy, you know, when people have a lot of money to spend and you can go out and it's easy to get business out there, but at this point in time it's become a lot more difficult. What are the type of characteristics of a very successful salesman during a downturn?
Well, it was a little bit easier in the past, so people could sit back and the customer would come in anyway. Now you're actually having to go out there and look for business, and I think something Mark said is you have to go out there. Often salespeople are stuck behind a computer waiting for the phone to ring. Well, then you're not going to be doing sales. Some of the characteristics obviously that you need is the willingness to actually sell. A lot of people that are employed as salespeople don't want to sell. They've got a mindset around sales. Oh, I don't like selling. Well, if you've ever had a girlfriend or a boyfriend or did a presentation or got a job, you're good at selling. It's how you go about doing that. And then there needs to be a resilience factor in it. You will hear the answer no. You will maybe need to be persevere through that no and really identify what's the need, what's the offering that you bring to it, and bring about that match.
What are your thoughts on that, Jessica?
Just to add to Harry's point, I think salesmen also need passion. And the easiest way to get passion is to really believe in the product. So does your salesperson understand the product? Do they believe in the company? And do they have the culture of the company embedded in them? If you don't understand how the product works and really believe in it, I don't think you're going to be able to sell that product effectively.
I mean, you have to be a brand ambassador. I think that's rule number one. You have to be passionate, understand the product in order to be able to sell it.
Well, look, you've hit the nail on the head. The HR Chally Group did a survey among 7,500 of their clients to see which were world-class sales teams. Out of those 7,500 sales teams, only 17 were world-class. And one of the big challenges is that we choose our salespeople incorrectly. There was an article in the Harvard Business Review where they asked one of the universities people that graduated, how many of you would become salespeople after you graduated? And out of that, 4% said they'd become salespeople. Guess how many became salespeople? 67%, which means you've got people that going into a sales job, they don't really want to be there. And they don't have that passion that you spoke about. So, because sales is a relatively easy job to get into. You know, they think you've got a bit of a personality, you can sell, you can get in. And in South Africa in particular, we're not very good at interviewing salespeople. We'll see 5, we'll resonate with 1 or 2, and we'll say, off you go.
We think they've got a bubbly, you know, charismatic personality,
yeah,
and you know that's not necessarily going to sell the product.
The challenge is that it's horses for courses. So, for example, a heavy closer has got the personality and will close, but they're not good at keeping an account going. They're going to mess it up at some stage. So an account manager, he'd rather slam his head in the door than go and pick up a phone to try and get a prospect. And the big thing in most companies, we try and get the most out of our salespeople. So we want them to be a hunter, we want them to be a closer, we want them to be an admin person, we want them to be a consultant. And unfortunately, we're all different personalities. So I say there's never bad salespeople. You just place them in the wrong position, and the challenge is to find the right position to fit that personality. And once you do that, I believe they'll fly.
So there are different stages to the sales process, and can you break down then the role of selling the product into those various stages, and then define assign the right person to those?
You definitely have to do that, because that's half the problem with sales. we don't understand what the process is from somebody having showed an interest, or we're going out hunting for that interest, through actually closing the deal and then the follow-up there afterwards. A big part of sales is follow-up. A big part of sales is admin. It's not necessarily sitting in front of somebody. That interaction on the phone, their interaction across the desk is the smallest part of the sale. However, we recruit that person and we don't understand really what the process is to track them through.
I think exactly on that point is, you know, when you look at the way teams are being made up at the moment, you're getting companies just cutting left, right and centre. They're basically taking their best generalists and then saying, well, do the same task that everybody else did. And well, you obviously react to the economics as they come to you, but you can't have a generalist fulfilling all sorts of different roles, because I think while you might tread water for a little, but you end up getting to the situation where your admin gets left behind, or you get the people who want to do something but are so busy doing their admin that they're not actually out there. And I think that's quite, I love this idea of teams that can fit the right kind of dynamic. And to me, I think that's one of the challenges that business, you talk to people, they're so intent on having generalists and not necessarily having specialists for their positions.
Okay, so let's answer the question. Let's jump straight in, starting with you, Jessica. How do you build a crack sales team during a recession? We're not in a recession, technical recession, but we're certainly in a very sluggish growth mode right now.
For me, there are three important things you can do. The first thing is to appoint a good sales manager, because the force behind the sales team is actually the manager. I think too many companies put too much effort into recruiting the sales teams, but they don't invest enough into finding the right manager. If you have an average manager and an excellent sales team, he's going to bring those members down to his level. But if he or she is an excellent manager, she'll bring them up and she'll recruit the right people. The second thing is to coach them. One-on-one coaching is always good. You can identify their challenges, you can identify their strengths, and then build tailored programs around that. And the third thing is maybe put them on a sales diet. So
a sales diet, that's a new term. What does that mean?
So tone down what they're forced to do and just give them perhaps less calls to do, and find out what they enjoy doing the most and what gives them the most confidence. And then once they've become more adept at whatever they're doing, then you can perhaps give them more to do. And in that way you'll build up their capacity and you'll equip them with that confidence that is so important to a good sales rep.
I mean, it just sounds like you need to nurture you know, the sales team a lot more. And that involves management.
Absolutely. The challenge with sales managers, number one, is a sales manager needs to manage too big a team. The ideal ratio for a sales manager is 5 to 1. So I know sales managers run 30 people. They cannot give the attention to that person. A good sales manager will at least once a month go out with each rep for a day and coach them in the car and listen to their call, and there's that coaching element in it. But if you've got 20 or 30 reps and you're one sales manager, there's no ways that you can get to all of them. So one of the challenges is capacity. The second challenge is that sales managers are struggling and they're absolutely failing because 50% of our sales force is not hitting their quota. So that's the reality. 80% of your sales force is not hitting their target. And a sales manager's job is a very difficult one. You know, you've got the CEO and the board putting pressure on, listen, where are the sales? And then you've heard the expression, trying to manage a sales team is like herding cats. So they've all got their own personality. They don't want to work as a team because most salespeople are individuals. So you have
but I mean, what if you don't have the choice? You have a 30 team that answers to you. And it's not your choice, you know, and that you have these quotas being put on you by the executive team, and there's nothing you can do. You have to work with what you've given.
Well, you've got a choice. You can leave the company if it doesn't fit with your DNA, because if they're going to put that kind of pressure on you, I mean, if you've got a 30-man sales team, quite honestly, you're going to have a sales director, and any company that's got half a brain would have at least three sales managers in that. So, yeah, so you can either leave or you can just suck it up, but problem is the sales manager is like a coach. They fire him first, and so it's a lonely place to be.
See, with a sales manager too, often we take what we think is the best salesperson and we promote them to sales management, and the sales management role is more around management than actually sales. So to manage a sales force, you really have to manage them, and it is difficult. They are a certain breed of people. They are difficult to manage. But it becomes a numbers game. Sales is pretty much simple. It's a numbers game. You need a certain amount of numbers in, at a certain level of conversion to get the required numbers on the
Okay, so
outside.
we've got to wrap this up in 20 seconds.
Sure.
What's your advice for those during this time to build that
I think
best
get the
sales
right
team?
management on board, be clear on where you're going and why you're going there, because then people will be passionate about it, and manage the detail of the numbers every day, not once a week, once a month, every day.